recap what we had gone through yesterday, and then we'll see some more of what we were doing yesterday. So we were doing functions yesterday, so we'll try to cover and end the topic today. So yeah, so yesterday initially we saw what a keyword was. So basically, keywords in Python are words in Python that have certain meanings. So like we saw, right? We saw a big list of keywords yesterday in the PPT. So most of these words, I mean, some of these we had already seen in the past while using some other concepts like the Boolean values true and false we had seen previously, and def we saw yesterday again while creating function. So all these are keywords and they are not the significance, they have certain significance in Python. So you cannot use them as a variable name that will give you some error. So yeah, that we saw first. Then we saw what a global keyword was. So initially, during the previous sessions, we had seen what a local and global variable was. Local variables are the ones that we define inside a certain scope. Like a scope meaning like if you're creating a code block. So if you have a code block, say a Python function, so that is a code block, right? We have seen right now we have seen three examples of code blocks. One is the conditional statement. In that also we write a code block. So in conditional statements, like if the if condition is true, then a certain code block gets executed. So that is a code block. And similarly, we have elif conditions and else conditions. So all if, elif, and else, all the three combined come under your conditional statements. Then we have loops, which is also an example of the code blocks. So in loops, we saw while and this for loop. So both of them, whatever you have written inside the loop is also considered as a code block. And yesterday, and I think a little bit of the introduction was already given like previously, but yesterday we saw formally what a function is. So function is also an example of a code block. So whenever you define you define a variable inside a code block, that is a local variable and that cannot be accessed anywhere outside of that code block. So yesterday when we tried to do that, we introduced two functions and we introduced two local variables in these functions respectively. There was one variable in the func1 function, one variable in the func2 function. So we saw that we cannot access these two variables apart anywhere apart from the functions. Like you cannot access a variable that is declared in func1 in either func2, or you cannot access it outside of the function also. So that was a local variable, and in case if you are defining a variable outside all the functions and all the code blocks, then that becomes a global variable. So the thing why we use global keyword was the main thing. If you want to update any global variable from a local scope. So if you want to update any global variable from any local scope or from any local code block, so in that case you have to use global. If you just want to print it, then no need of using the global keyword. It's just like if you want to update the main keyword. In that case, you have to ask Python for the permission, right, to change the global variable from within any local scope, like within any function or any if-else block. So in that case, you use global. And also, we saw yesterday one more concept that if we have a global variable and a local variable, both of them having the same name. Okay, if we have a global variable and a local variable, both have the same name, and maybe I'll just share my screen and I'll just show the code. It will make it better. We have seen this yesterday, but I just thought like I'll revise it. Yeah, so I'll be using the same example that we used yesterday. So here I have this add-val function, and now I'm just going to define one more this local variable. One is this on line number 2 we have a global variable, and this line number 5 we have a local variable. So in this case, if I want to print if I'm printing that variable from inside the function, so if I just print num, so in this case, first, if Python encounters something like that, some variable name, then first it will try to check if that variable exists in the current scope itself. So current scope as in the current code block. So since line number 6 is inside of the function, its scope is only within the function, right? Its scope is defined within the function. That is, it is limited within this function. So first, if there is some line like this wherein num is getting printed and a num variable is being called, so first Python will try to see if this num variable is present inside the scope itself. So in this case, you have a num variable inside the scope. You have num is equal to 12. So it will print that. Okay, if this was not there, if this was, if I comment this out, now in this case, Python will try to check if num variable is present in this scope or not. Now in this case, since I commented this line, fifth line, there is no num in the local scope. So if it's not present, then Python will go to the next available scope. That is, Python will go to this global scope and check if num is present or not. So in this case, num is already present, so this will get printed and 10 will get printed. Yeah. So this was what we saw yesterday. Then apart from that, we saw Python functions, I mean the general use of Python functions. Why do we use Python functions? Like it's a block of code, and if we want to repeat this block of code somewhere multiple times, then instead of writing the code multiple times, I can just directly use the function. I can put that block of code in a function and call the function name everywhere I want to use it, and I'll save my time and energy of writing the code again and again. And since a function is going to perform some operation, it is going to do some form of processing. So it requires some input for processing, right? So that input is given using parameters. So yesterday we saw the difference between parameters and arguments. So both will be, like if you try to read any blog on Python or if you try to read any book, then both these words, parameters and arguments, will be used multiple times. So, as discussed yesterday, parameters is nothing but the input that you're giving to a function when you're declaring the function. When you're writing the definition of the function, at that point you're using some placeholder, right? So in this case, if I give input to the add num variable like num1, num2, two inputs I give to the function. So in this case, num1 and num2 become my parameters because I have used num1 and num2 variables as a placeholder while defining the function. But if I'm let me just num1 plus num2 so that this function makes sense at least. Now when I'm calling this function, when I'm invoking this function to run, at that point I have to give some parameters, right? Yesterday we saw this as well, that if you have a certain number of inputs required in the function, then while calling that function you have to specify that many inputs in the parentheses. So you have to specify that those many values here. If you specify less or more number of values, then it will fail. Your compilation will fail. If you try to run the code, it won't run properly. So yeah, in this case, since there are two parameters, then I need to pass two arguments to it. So the actual values, when you pass the actual values to any function, that is called as an argument. But while defining the function, this is called as a parameter. Okay. Yeah, so it's called as a parameter, and when you're calling the function, whatever value you're passing, that is called as an argument. So yeah, that is what we saw yesterday. Then we saw that a Python function can have a return statement also. So if you have a function and if you're processing something in that function, you're taking input from the user. That is, in this case, whatever input you're giving to the function, that would be the input, like whatever argument you're passing to the function, that will be the input of the function. And you're processing, you're doing some form of logic, you're processing it, or you're performing some logic on the input. So yeah, if you're not intending to use the input, then there's no point of giving that input to the function, right? You only give the input that you will use some logic on. So in this case, like I'm going to add two numbers. That is the function. That is what my function will do. Add two numbers. So I'll just pass two numbers to it. So yeah, so once you give it input, once the processing happens, now you have to return the output, right? So everywhere, maybe like I don't want to print it, I just want to give the output. So in this case, you can use the return statement. When you say return, wherever the function is being called, at that point, this function will return the value. Okay, return the value means I can save that value in some other variable. So wherever I'm calling that function, I have to ensure that whatever is getting returned from the function gets saved at some point. Okay? And this is because like here you need to understand like you might say this num is already saved here. Why do you have to return it and then save it in another variable? So that is because this num is a local variable. So whatever happens inside of a function, whatever logic happens inside of a function, that should ideally remain inside the function only. Okay, so if you're processing inputs and if you're getting an output inside a function, then that should be stored in a local variable only. Only if you want to do some other form of processing on that output, like if you want to add the two numbers and then probably multiply it by 5. So if in this case, if I'm giving two numbers, then whatever is the answer of this addition, I want to multiply that with 5, right? So in this case, I can take that, like I can call this function addVal. I can add the numbers 12 and 23. I'll get the answer because I'm using return statement here while in the function. So wherever this function gets called with whatever values, so at that point, the addition result of the two values will be returned. And now I have the answer. Now this answer, if I want to like multiply it with 5, I can do answer into 5. Yeah. So yeah, that is one thing, return statement. Yeah, I guess this is what we covered yesterday. I guess we covered, yeah, so basically there can be function with one parameter, there can be function with two parameter, there can be function with no parameter at all, and there can be function with multiple number of parameters also. But you have to ensure that the number of parameters that you are using while defining the function, that is equal to the number of arguments that you are passing to the function when you call it. So that is important. Yeah. Is this clear till here for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, yeah, I think there is not much to cover today, probably, like if we complete it really quick. So what we'll do is we'll complete this functions part today, and then we'll look into the questions of last week. Okay, so let's not take it at the start of the session. Let's just try to complete the functions topic today, and then at the end of the session, we will see the last week's questions. Okay. So yeah, next, one more thing I want to say here is like whenever you're using this return statement, right, in any function, whenever there is a return statement in any function, whatever you write after the return statement will not get executed. Your return statement, if you have one in your function, it's not necessary. You can have or not have a return statement in your function. But in case you have a return statement in your function, then whatever lines are written after the return statement will not get executed. This will not get, this here in this case, print num will not get executed because at line number 6 only the Python is returning from the function. Okay, the control of Python is returning from the function. That's why it's called return, right? Because it's like returning from the function. After this point, it no more will be a part of the function. So even if you have lines, I don't know if this is, yeah, if this is valid. Okay. So even if you have certain lines here, these lines will not get executed. After line number 6, the control will directly come to wherever the function is being called. Which means after line number 6, here in this case, what will happen is line number 10 will get executed and addVal will be called. This function will be called, which will take the control to line number 5, then line number 6, and after return statement, the control again comes back to line number 10, and then it goes to line number 11. So in this case, after return statement, whatever you're writing, whatever code you are writing, that is not going to get executed. Okay, yeah, this is done. So yeah, this is done. So you have a function with two variables, two parameters that we saw. Now, in case now there are certain cases wherein you don't know how many number of parameters you are supposed to give to the function. Okay, so if I say def family, okay, def family, and or maybe I'll say def children in family. So this function is supposed to print all the children from family. Okay, that you will give to the function. So now in this case, if my household has one child, then I can just say child one. Okay, and then I can print this child one, or I can just print eldest child and youngest child maybe. Eldest child is whatever is passed in child one. So that will be my eldest child one, right? So this is if you have like one child in the family. If you have children in the family, then you can say child two. And in this case, I'll just print the youngest and the oldest only two I'll print. Youngest child would be child two. Child two. If you have three children in the family, you can add one more parameter here, child three. And here, youngest would be three, right? If assuming we are giving the child names in the order. So here, the youngest child would be child three and eldest child would be child one. But now, in case you don't know how many, like there can be more than three children also in the family, right? Like logically there can be any number of children in the family, so you don't know how many parameters to pass in this case, because you don't know how many, like your input can be anything, like one person might have like five children in their family, one person might have 10 children in their family, one person might have two, and one person might have one. So in this case you don't know what should be the ideal number of parameters, because you don't know how many inputs can come from the user, right? So in this case, when you don't know what would be the number of parameters in any function, so you can use a star args. Okay, star args. This star here, star symbol means that you can have any number of inputs in the any number of parameters in the function. Okay, any number of arguments can be passed. That is the args, right? We say args. So you can ideally write anything here. You can say child also here. That is fine. Children, child, whatever you want. This is just like a variable. But args, like it's a convention. We always use args because args, like it's a short form for arguments, right? So star arguments, which means any number of arguments can come. So if you use args, okay, in this case, args can hold any number of parameters, right? While calling the function, I can pass any number of arguments to it. So now if I want a specific argument out of the list, right, this would be a list. This whatever will be passed here will be stored as a list with the name args. So now I want to access the first and the last, because I'm just going to print the eldest and the youngest child, right? So I just want to access the first element of this args list and the last element of this args list. So in that case, so basically whenever you call this and whatever parameters you are passing in this function, all of those will get saved as a list with the names ours, with the name ours. And if you want to access some specific an element of that list, like in this case, since I'm just printing the youngest and the eldest member of the youngest and eldest child, so in that case, I can just print the first and the last element of the list. Eldest child would be plus R 0. So this is how you can access, like even if you have multiple arguments, this using the indexing technique, you can access some specific element, some specific parameter. So here again, second one, youngest child. So how do I find the youngest child? How do I find the last element of the list? What should be the index?
One.
You don't know if it's one or two. Like you don't know how many arguments the user is going to pass in this case. So you
Star.
just no, it's something you know already. That's something we have discussed already. So, like if I want to access the last element in the list, okay? Now I say this is a list, ours is a list, and I want to access the last element of that list. So, for any list, the last element would be at index length minus 1, right? So that's what we are going to do here. We're just going to say ours, length of ours, minus 1. Minus 1. So now while calling this function, I can call this function children family, and I can pass like any number of parameters to it. So I'll just say Steven, Bob, Maggie, right? So and now I've given 3 children names, so it should print Steven and Maggie, right? So that's what it prints. So, like you can give it any number of parameters. Even if I remove this, it's totally fine. It'll just print, yeah, elder Stephen, younger Bob. So, yeah, this is when you don't know how many number of parameters you will be passing. So, or wherever this function is getting called, how many number of parameters will get passed. So that's when you use the star art to get any variable number of parameters or a variable number of arguments from the user. Okay. Yeah, cool. This is cool. There is one more technique which you can use while calling a function. Just remove this. Okay. So now if I'm trying to print mm, uh, my name, for example. Okay, so I'll just say print name. Okay, so I have my first name, or F name, and I have my last name, or L name. Okay. So in printing, so I'll just say print. My name is name plus space. I will give space between both the names, and then I say L name. Okay. So here in this case, I can directly call this function with the two arguments. That is, I just pass my name and my surname. Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. So if I call this, okay, it's printing my complete name. So either you can do this, or by calling the function, you can directly use print underscore name. You can you can use the this as well. You can use the parameter name. F name is equal to Priya. L name is equal to 9. Okay. So in this case, this will also print. So why is this useful? Why is this thing useful? This is useful when you know you have to pass in a first name and the last name. Okay, so in this case here you can see the function definition. It is present here itself, right? You can see the function definition. But if you have this function definition in some other file, like you can use functions in different files as well. Like I can have my function in file 1 and use it in file 2. So that is also what we can do in Python. So we'll talk about it later. But what I want to try to imply here is whenever you don't have access to the function, like suppose this print name function was in some other file, so you didn't know where this print name function is or what is the definition of the print name function. You just know that you are supposed to pass the first name and the last name in the print name function. So in that case, here you don't know the order in which you have to pass. Like you don't know if first name is supposed to be passed first or first name is supposed to be passed last, right? So in that case, you can directly you can use this F name is equal to Priya, L name is equal to Nayak. So what happens in this case is you can change the order also, and that would totally be fine here because you are using the parameter names along with the arguments. So you can you can interchange the order of the arguments. You can say this L name is equal to Nayak and F name is equal to Priya. So it again prints me in the proper order itself, right? So first, while printing in the function, I'm first calling f name and then calling L name, right? So in this case, I have given f name and L name according to whatever is required in the definition, which is f name is first, L name is second. But in case I don't have access to that function definition and I want to use that function, I know I'm supposed to pass the last name and the first name, but I don't know the order in which it is supposed to be passed. So in that case, I can use the parameter names. I can use parameter names and then I can like call the function with like any order of parameters. It won't be necessary to have a certain order because in this case there is no, see, if you're calling the function without using the parameter name like line number 6, so in this case what Python does is it will internally map whatever you're passing as the first argument, that would be mapped to the first parameter. Whatever you're passing as the second argument, that would be mapped to the second parameter. So this is one thing. But in case if you don't know the order, in that case, because you want the mapping to happen properly, in that case you can use the parameter name along with the argument. So here in this case, even though you have put this surname first and first name last, so in this case still, because I'm passing the parameter names along with it, Python will map it properly. Okay, so this is one thing. Okay, so now we saw the case wherein we had like multiple this, right? Like, let me just write that again. Family, children, where we had multiple number of parameters and we didn't know how many parameters to pass. So we were passing args and we were using things like args of 1, args of 0, right, to access that particular element from the list. But if you don't want to use this args of 0, args of 1, args of 2 and something like that, and you want to give some meaningful name to it. So for example, if I have def family, okay, so now in this case I have all the, I want to give all the members of the family. So you have a father, a mother, and now you can have any number of children, right? So in this case, you don't know how many parameters will come, right? So in this case, but I don't want to access it. Like in this case, if I use star args, then whatever, I won't know which argument is father's name, which argument is mother's name, which arguments are children's name, right? So I want to label it. I don't know how many parameters to pass, but I want to label those parameters, right? So I want to, I mean, I don't know how many parameters are supposed to be passed into a function, how many, while calling, how many values should be given to the function, because families can be variable, the size of family can be variable. But inside that variable list, inside whatever list that is being passed to the function, I want to identify which one is the mother, which one is the father, and which one are children. So in that case, what I'll do is I'll just say star star KWRs. Now, what is, again, this KWRs is just a variable. You can use any other name instead of KWRs. KWRs means keyword R's. Okay, what does this do? Okay, let me just tell you. So I'll just pass it for now. Again, pass meaning I'll come back to it later. So what I'll do right now is when I'm calling this function, I can pass any number of parameters, but I can give a keyword for that parameter, which means I can say father is equal to Bob, maybe, yeah. Father is Bob. Then I can pass mother is equal to some other name, Alice, I guess. Okay, and then I can pass the children name. So I can say child 1 is Stephen and child 2 is Maggie. And child 2 is Maggie. So here in this case, I can pass multiple number of parameters, any number of parameters or arguments in the function, but I am giving keyword to each of these arguments. Okay, I am going to define the keyword. I am going to say, okay, this is father, this is mother, wherever this function is called. So inside this, when I am accessing the argument list, whatever arguments are being passed to the function, if I'm accessing them inside the function, I can directly use the keyword. I can say print father is father. Okay, so should work. Maybe not. Let me just check what went wrong. Okay. So you don't have a key here. You can't directly access the key, but you can print the key like a normal thing. So in this case, what will happen is, so initially when you are using star hours, this is getting passed as a list, right? Because you're passing a list of parameters to it. In this case, if you're passing star KWRs, which means the keyword hours, in this case, here a key value pair will be passed instead of just passing the list. Okay, so which means this would be like a dictionary. So I can say key comma value and in kwr dot items. That is how you access elements from the dictionary, right? You use dot items, and here I can say print whatever is the key, which means in this case, like father would be the key, right? Father is the key, so I just say key, and the name, whatever would be the name. So father name is equal to, yeah. So okay, why is it just giving name? Mm, seems fine to me. Yeah, it did print, right? Yeah, cool. So now in this case, now I know, okay, which is the father name, which is the mother name, and which are the children names. So even though I had like multiple parameters here in this case, I could identify among the parameter which is what, because I was passing a key along with the parameter. That is, I was passing a parameter name, whatever is the parameter name, and then is equal to the argument. Right. So in this case, this whole dictionary, got saved as a dictionary inside this KWR, and I could access the key and value from this KWR and find out which argument passed is what. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this got done. Okay. There's one more concept. Yeah. So now there can be sometimes wherein you kind of know like what the value would be, like what the default value would be. You want to give a default value to each parameter, right? So if I say, let's say, volume control. Okay, so volume control, and you have like three values. You can either pass high, low, or medium, right? So I'd say. mm, Control, just control, and volume is equal to. So volume is what you're going to pass, right? And suppose you have like 1 to 10 volume. Okay, you can pass 1 to 10 volume. Okay, so the user, if suppose this is the function written for some radio, okay, so the user can change the knob from 1 to 10. So the user can control from 1 to 10, whatever is the volume that they require for the radio. So now in this case, maybe I'll just print here, for example, volume. Okay. So here, but there is some default value, okay, which means like if the user does not give any preference, like if you're just switching on the radio, okay, you're not turning the volume button at all. You're just switching on the radio. In that case, the radio should get switched on with a default volume, right? So that's in that case, the user is not giving any input, so it has to consider the default input. So similarly, if you have a function and if while calling the function, there is no argument to be given to the function because you did not get any input from the user. So in this case, if I'm calling this function control to control the volume of the radio when the radio gets started, for example, and if the user has not turned the knob from 1 to 10, the user has not touched the knob only, then I won't understand what volume to put the radio on or what volume can I pass to this control function. So in that case, if I do not pass any value, this will fail, right? If I just call control function without giving it any input, then in this case, it will fail. It will say one missing argument. So what you can do is while defining a parameter, you can define along with this parameter, you can use a default value as well. So I'll just say 5 is the default value. So when I say volume is equal to 5, okay, I'll just comment everything out. Yeah, when I say volume is equal to 5, now even if I don't give any input to the volume to the control function, it will set what will be okay. Even if I do not give it any input, it takes the default value as the input. So in this case, whenever you have like a default value associated with your parameter, like in this case, 5 was the default value that was associated with this volume parameter. And when you try to call the function without any argument, in that case, it will take the default value. If you do pass any other argument, like if you do pass 10 in this case, so it will take 10 and not 5. But if you don't pass any parameter in that place, if you don't pass any argument for that particular parameter, then it will take the default value. And if you have like multiple variables, so like if I have multiple parameters, sorry. So one you have volume and the second you can have like, I don't know what else is there. I mean AC control maybe. Okay, so AC control is this might be a control for your car where you have like a radio volume and you have like AC temperature as well. So in this case, like you can whether to have a default value associated with a parameter or not, that is very independent. Like you can have one default value associated parameter and the other one won't have any default value associated with that. So even that is cool. So in this case, even if I don't have 5, in this, even if I don't have the first parameter, I need to pass the second parameter, right? And let's say you can keep the AC temperature from 30 degree to 25 to 30 degree maybe. Okay, so now if I pass 26, this should. Not if our argument should follows default argument. Okay, got it. Yes. So basically, in this case, when you have multiple parameters, and you want to put in some default value to that parameter, so the default valued parameter should be at the end. Okay, how many ml parameters you are passing in that have a default value, that should be at the end. The parameters that do not have a default value associated should be the starting one. Okay, so in this case now, if I have this AC control at the start and then the default valued parameter is at the end. Now if I don't want to give the second argument, if I don't want to give the volume argument, I can just give the first one. I can give control 26 and it will print me 5 and 26 also. Print AC temperature. So it will print me both 26 and 5, right? And if I wish to give the volume, then that also I can do. I can say, suppose 7 is the volume. So basically, you can give any number of parameters to a function, and any number of parameters of the function can have a default value associated with it. And if one value of one parameter is associated with a default value, that does not mean the other parameter also needs to be associated with the default value. They are independent. You can have one parameter with a default value and one parameter without a default value. But you have to ensure that whatever parameters you have with default value should come at the end, and the ones that do not have a default value associated with it should come at the start while defining the function. Okay, I'll tell you why this is the case. Like if I just remove this and put it at the end, right? If I put it at the end, so now if I'm just passing 26, okay, if I'm just passing 26, how will Python understand that is this supposed to be mapped to volume or is this supposed to be mapped to AC temperature? Like since this volume parameter is optional now because it has a default value associated with it, and I don't have to pass an argument for volume while calling the function. If I pass 26, okay, how will Python understand that is it supposed to be put in, is it supposed to be mapped to volume or is it supposed to be mapped to AC temperature, right? So that's why if you have all the parameters without any default value at the start, AC temperature, it becomes less confusing for Python. Here it is very clear that if you have just one argument given while calling the function, that will be mapped to AC temperature only, because this is only the parameter which has compulsorily requires an argument. The second one does not, it's optional to give an argument for the second one. So if you have just one argument given into your function, so that will definitely be mapped to the first mandatory argument only. Clear, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Question. Okay, cool. All right, this is clear. Okay, now let's see what else is there. While passing in the parameters, right, it's not necessary that the parameters need to be like a string or an integer or anything. You can pass any parameter to the function. So you can also have a function which takes in a list parameter, which has a list input to the function. So see function. And if this is a list, that is so. And actually, we saw that ours example, but ours is kind of implicit. Like you are not passing a list to it. Like while calling the function, you are calling it with separate this itself. So here it's ours. Here we know that ours is going to be a list, but while calling family children, we will be passing separate arguments, right? Comma separated arguments. So that is not like an example of you passing in a list to a function. So here in this case, I'll just directly pass a list to to this my function. So now if I just want to print everything that is there inside this list, I can just say for x and food, and I'm printing the x. Now I have a list, for example, just say fruits list. Cherry. So now I have a list with 3 values. So if I want to print all the values from the list using the my function, I can just say my function and I can use that list name. I can pass the list name to it. That's it. And it will print the elements of the list. So this is how, I mean, this is just one example. You can pass a tuple or you can pass it a dictionary also. You can pass it anything that you want. So cool. Yeah, let's just go and check out the PPT. This was all about like passing arguments. Okay, so we saw passing arguments. So it is specified after function name and parenthesis. So we have seen whenever we pass the parameters in a function definition, we write the function definition inside the parenthesis. We use a comma separated list of all the parameters. Whatever parameters you want to pass through the list, all have to be separated by a comma. And when the function is called, arguments have to be passed for each parameter. So for each parameter, unless you have a default specified in the parameter list, like if you have a default value associated with any of the parameter, then you can either pass the parameter associated with that, or you cannot pass it. That is totally cool. And in case number of parameters and arguments don't match, then the syntax error will be thrown. Again, we saw you can add star if you do not know how many, like what all number of parameters is required, and you can use default parameters. So this is just some example that we, some other examples of the same things that we saw right now. So, then we'll see returning from function. So we saw that the statements after return statements are not executed inside a function. If the return statement is without any expression, then special value none will be returned. Okay, so let's just go back. So I said, right, we can either have a function return something, or if we can not have it return anything, that is fine. Returning something from a function is optional. But if you do not return a valid value, like if I have add val, I have num1 and num2. Is equal to num1 plus num2. Okay, so now I'm printing whatever is the answer. Okay. Now, if like initially what we were doing is we were returning some value, right? We were returning ans. So in this case, now in this case, ans is the addition of two values. So if these two values are integers, then my ans will be of int type, right? If these two values are float, then their addition will also be of float type, and hence this ans variable will also be of float type. So you'll be returning a float in that case. But now if I just say return, okay, if I do not give any value, if I just say return, so this is actually a valid syntax in Python. See, there was not any syntax error in this case. So you can just say return and not return any value. So if I call add val here, okay, and if I print what is being returned in that case, like if I return ans in this case, I know whatever, so in this case 24 will be returned, right? So if I just say print add val, so in this case 22 will be returned, sorry, not 24, 22 will be returned in this case. But if I do not return ans, if I just say return, then let's see what would be returned. So it returns something called as none. Okay, so none is a value in Python, which means it does not have any value. So basically in Python, not having a value has a value, which is called as none. So none is basically saying that it does not have any, like it's like a null value. It does not have any value at all. Okay, and none, this none variable, right? It has its own data type also. So if I say a is equal to none, this is just one other value of a data type, none. So if I say a is equal to none, and if I try to print the data type of a, it is saying none type, which means none is a value of data type none type. None type is some data type, and it has only one value associated with it, which is none. Okay, and a none is used in places where there is no value. So in this case, I was not returning any value. There is no value getting returned. It's just saying return. That's it. So there is no value associated with it. So that's why it returns none, because there is nothing associated. There is no value. None means no value at all. So yeah, this is what it returns in case you just use a return without any value associated with it. Okay, then cannot be used outside of a function. So obviously, return is only used when you are trying to return from a function. So if you are not inside a function, if you are using return statement, then it won't be a valid Python syntax. For using the return statement, you have to be inside a function and you need to be returning from that function. That's what it means. Wherever you're using return statement, that is where your control comes out of the Python statement. Your control returns from the Python statement. So you cannot use return statement outside. We can return multiple values from a function. Yeah, let's see that. Okay. Okay. So if I have say a function, func, okay, and say I'm returning some random things maybe for now. So I have a string which I say this is the output. Some string I have and I have some integer also along with it. Okay, so there's no use case in this case, like we are not talking about any specific use case. I'm just trying to show you a concept here. So here I have two values. So till now we have been returning one value from the function, right? After adding two variables, we were returning the answer, whatever was the answer by adding those two variables from the function. So in this case, instead of returning one variable, I'm going to return two variables now. I'll be returning both str and x. Okay, so now I'm returning two variables here. You can return any number of variables from a function. Only what you need to take care of is when you are calling the function. Okay, so in that case, in the earlier case, where I was adding two numbers and outputting the sum of those two numbers, wherever I was calling that function, I was storing that whatever was the output of the function in one variable, right? If I have like add val, which will return and then and I'm in this case I'm just returning one value. So wherever I was calling that function, so at that point, or maybe I'll just say to reduce confusion, I'll just say dot num. So wherever I was calling that function, I was assigning the value returned by the function, assigning whatever is the output returned by the function in this ans variable. So I'd say I add val 10, right? So in this case, what 10 and 12 will get added, and whatever is the total, that is 22, will be saved in totenum variable, and that variable will be returned. So when it returns, wherever I'm calling this function, wherever this add val is getting called, I was saving that value in one variable because only one variable is getting returned from the function. But in this case, in case of this func function, I have two variables that are getting returned. I have str and I have x also. So now when I call this function from anywhere, I have to ensure that I store it in two different variables, not in one variable. Okay. So if I want to store two values simultaneously in two different variables, I will just use like this output str, I guess. Um, this just means output str, and then I have output int. So I have two variables that are being returned from the function. I will need to store these two variables in two separate, like whatever two outputs that is being returned by the function in two separate variables. So yeah, I'll say func. Okay, cool. And I'll print this now. str. Okay, right. So this I'll just comment it out. Okay. So yeah, so when I call this function now, in this case, after func gets called, both str and x will be returned from func, and both, since we are returning two values, we are also storing it into two separate variables, and now I can print the value of the two variables. So this is when you want to return more than one value from a function. So you can return multiple values from a function. Okay, so this is cool, and you can either return it like this, just as I returned it. So when you return it like this, right? So what happens is, like if I just go here and remove all of this, and just try to find, like what I'm trying to do right now is I'll be trying to find out what is the data type of the value that gets returned to me. So initially, before this we saw, right, when we have a function and when we are just returning nothing, like if you're returning, that's it, like we're using return without any value, then the value that gets returned would be of data type none, right? If I check this, right, type of func2. So func2 will be called, and this whatever none gets returned, that would be evaluated in this case. That would be what would be the output of func2. And inside type, we will have, like if you evaluate this, func2 will get transformed to none, because func2 will be called, whatever is the returning value that will be returned at this point, and then the type function will be evaluated. So we will have type of whatever is the output from func2. Okay, so if I run this, I have the type of none type. So similarly, and now if I have one more function with the same add nums function, so in that case, I was returning an int or float type, right? So when I return that one value, again, I will have some data type associated with the value that I'm returning from the function. I have num1 and num2. And num2 and return add. So now if I want to check what is the data type of the value returned from the add val function, I can directly say print, sorry, print type of add val. I'm directly calling the function 10 and 12. Okay, so in this case, what happens is the inner parenthesis will get evaluated first, right? Like this is the mathematical rule. If you have multiple parameters, if you have multiple, parentheses, then the inner one will get evaluated first, right? So here in this case, add val, it will detect add val function, and the control will go to this add val function. It will add two numbers, it will return the addition result, and it will come at this point itself. So whatever is the addition result, whatever is the output of add val will come at this point. Okay, and then type function will get evaluated. So when type function gets evaluated, the parameter passed to the type function would be the output of add val function. Whatever is outputted from add val function will be passed as an argument to the type function. Then the type of that will be determined, and whatever is the type, right? Whatever is the type, whatever is evaluated by the type function, whatever is outputted by the type function, this whole thing, whatever is outputted by the type function, will become an argument for the print function. So that will be printed in this case. So if I check this now, it is saying int, right? So in this case, when I just returned one value from my function, which was adding two integers. So in that case, I got the return type as return type of the value that is being returned, the type of the value that is being returned as int. Right. Similarly, if I have this I return two different values from a function, and if I try to check the type of the return output, so it says tuple. Okay, which means no matter how many values you pass from here, no matter how many values you like more than one, if you have more than one value that you pass using a comma separated list that you return from the function, then that will be returned as a tuple. Okay, and that will be returned as a tuple. So if I just say tup is equal to func, and then if I print tup, so you'll see that both my values are now visible as a tuple. If you store it in one value, if you store whatever is the if you have some two return statements, if you return two different things from the function, and if you store it in one value, then that will be stored as a tuple. If you want both of those to be saved in different variables, then you can use this syntax and you can store it in different variables. Okay, so this is clear?
Yes,
Clear?
ma'am.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so this was about returning more than one value from a function. So you can actually return the value as a list as well. So if I have func3 and if I have the same string, and I have a int. So if I don't want to return this as a tuple, if I'm going to directly use it as a list somewhere, then I can return a list as well. I can return a list as well. So here in this case, if I return a list and if I try to find what is the type of the whatever is the output of func3 function, then this should provide me answer saying list. It's of list type. Okay, and if I directly print this, it should give me square brackets instead of the round brackets, because now I'm returning a list. So yeah, so I have a list of two values in this case. So yeah, this is how you return a list, and similarly you can return a dictionary as well. So let's say if I have func4 and so yeah, I first have to define a dictionary, right? And then I have to put in some this key value pair. So I'll just say str is equal to this is an output, the same thing, right? And the second one would be an integer. So I just say x is equal to 50. Okay, so now I have a dictionary created, and if I want to return a dictionary, that is, I'll just return the dictionary, and if I print the type of this function, it should give me dictionary. Okay, and I can store it in some another dictionary. I mean, like I can store it in one variable, and then I can access the same things. I can access str and x using this variable. So when I'm storing whatever is the output of this function in this dict variable, that means this dictionary that is returned from func4 function is saved now in this dict variable. So now dict is a dictionary, and if I want to access any of the values in the dictionary, I just have to pass the keys. I just have to mention the keys and I'll get the values. So here if I want to check the string, so I have to give the key a name, that is str, and it will provide me with whatever is the value associated with str key. So yeah, this is an output which is a value associated with str. So this was to basically return like list, and like in general, if you return more than one value, then that will be returned as a tuple. You don't have to explicitly return it as a tuple. You don't have to put like the a parenthesis like outside of your values in order to make it as a tuple. Anytime you return more than one value from the function, then that will by default be returned as a tuple variable. and you can explicitly return it in terms of a list or in terms of a dictionary. But when you are returning it as a separate value, like in this case I have str as a separate value, x as a separate value. So even though this is returned as a tuple, but if you use the proper syntax, like in this case, if you save the output into separate, into different variables, then in that case you can use the output from the function as separate variables, as separate values, instead of using it as one tuple. Okay, this is cool. Go back. Functions can also return tuple, list, dictionary, or other functions. So yeah, we can return other functions as well. So before going on to that, let's see what is an inner function. Okay. So now we have seen like a for loop nested inside a for loop, right? We have seen a for loop nested inside for loop. We have seen if else block nested inside if else block. So similarly, you can nest functions into one another as well. You can have one function inside the other function as well. Okay, so why would you do this first of all? Why would you use a nested or inner function? So like now that we know why do we use a function in general, we use a function when in my code, if I have multiple points where a certain logic is going to get used, then I'll create a function of that logic and I'll use that function in places wherever I have to put that logic, wherever I have to write that logic. So in all those places, I'll call that function again. So similarly, if I have one outer function and inside of this outer function, okay, I have several points wherein one particular logic will get used. Okay, so this logic, maybe I'll just show it using an example and it will be better. Okay, so if I take the same example of addition, but in this case, I'm not going to pass in any parameters. Okay, I have to take 5 inputs from the user, for example. Okay, I'm adding 5 numbers, so I have to take 5 inputs from the user. Okay, so in that case, I can either say write num1 is equal to the whole thing, int, input, whatever, like to take the syntax to take input from the user, or else now I know that this input function will only be required inside my addval function. It is not going to be required anywhere outside of this addval function. So I have an outer function addval inside of which I want to use one logic multiple times, but I don't want to use that logic anywhere outside of this function, right? So what I'll do is I'll create an inner function. Okay, now you can see like here also in similar, like in case of nested loops or in case of nested conditional structures, here also I have an indentation, specific indentation, indentation way, in specific way in which I have to indent the nested function. Okay, if my outer function is at level 0, inner function will be a part of the code block of the outer function, so it will be at level 1. So I'll say get input. So this is my inner function to just get an input from the user, get one numerical input from the user. Okay, so this is my inner function. I'm just going to get input from the user. I'm going to get a number input from the user. Okay, I'm going to get that input from the user. Now my question is, do you like if okay? So now I'll just come back. So this is my my main function, my addval function, the outer function. Okay. Now my question is, do you think this num variable will be accessible here at line number 6? This num variable I have introduced inside of the inner function. I have an outer function addval inside of which I am defining one more function get input, right? Get input function, which is just going to get me the input. Now inside of this get input function, I have a local variable num, right? So my question is, will this num variable be accessible in this add val function? Like this line number 6 is a part of the outer function. It's not a part of the inner function. So my question is this local variable num, can this local variable num be accessed outside of the inner function but inside of the outer function? Will this num variable be accessible inside the add val function? Is this the right syntax?
I think no,
Okay, okay. Any reason why do you think no?
because it is the out of the function.
Right, right. Exactly. This is so see, when I introduce any variable inside this add val value, right? So that becomes a part of add val scope. That becomes a part of the scope of the outer function. But if I'm defining another function inside of my outer function like this, if I have another get input function, okay, and I'm introducing a local variable num inside of the get input function, then the scope of this local variable num is only valid inside of get input. You cannot use it anywhere outside of the get input function. Okay, so this whatever function you have created, whatever inner function you have created, and whatever is the local variable that you are declaring inside of this inner function, you cannot use this local variable anywhere outside apart from the scope of this inner function. It will only be accessible inside of the inner function. So if I want to access it in my outer function, my inner function will have to return it. That is the only way in which I can access this num variable. If my inner function returns it, now in my outer function, I can directly use this thing is equal to get input. Right? So now what happened is, now I have an inner function, right? First of all, with the indentations, you should understand what is a part of which function. So I have one whole function. This is my whole function. All of this is a part of add val function, right? And inside add val, I have this get input function. Okay, I have this get input function. Now my get input will get a number from the user, right? And now I have to add the values that I'm getting from the user. I have to use the input from the user in my function somehow. Okay, so but since this num is introduced inside of my inner function, I cannot use it outside of this scope, outside of the inner function. So in order to use it in my outer function, I will have to return the num from my inner function. I'm returning num in this way. Now, since I have returned this as a function, which means I want to use this logic multiple times, right? So as we said, we had to get 5 numbers from the user. So instead of writing that line every time, I can just write get input 5 times. So my inner function will not be used anywhere outside of the main function or outside of this add val function, but inside of the add val function only I require this logic multiple times. So in that case, I will introduce the inner function. So let's just take 3 value for now. So I have 3 values that I'm getting from the user, and then I am going to just add the 3 values, n2 plus n3, right? And I'm going to print it or return it, whatever. Okay, so in this way, like basically this get input is being defined inside of my main function. Why? Because inside of my main function, I have multiple points where I have to use that logic. And in this case, my logic is to get a number from the user. So I have multiple points. I have 3 points wherein I have to get a number from the user. So in this case, I'll just define an inner function because I know this logic will not be used anywhere outside of my function. This logic is only applicable inside of my function. I have to use it only inside of my outer main function. So I'll define an inner function and then I'll use that inner function to get the inputs 3 times. So yeah, so to invoke this, like to get the logic running, I have to call the outer function from somewhere. That. So line number 14 would be like a triggering point. Once line number 14 this is executed, control will go inside this add val function. it will see there is one more function here, and then it will go to line number this n1. So basically in this case, like wherever there is a def, right, wherever there is a def, the control does not go inside of the def unless the function is called by name, right? So in this case, in this file, first the control will go on line number 14. Here it will see on line number 3 there is something called def. It will acknowledge that this is a function. Python will acknowledge that this is a function because you've used def keyword, but it won't go inside of the function. Then it will, from line number 3, so directly the control will go to line number 14. Okay, line number 14, okay, this function is getting called. Now, since this function is getting called, it will go inside the function whichever is getting called. So here in this case, it will go, the control will go inside add val function. In this case, it will go over here, line number 4. Again, Python will acknowledge that there is one more inner function called get input, but it won't go inside get input right away. After line number 4, the control will come to line number 8. Here in line number 8, okay, now get input is being called. So then control will go to line number 5. It will take input from the user. It will return the input or return whatever is the input that the user gave, and then the control will come back here on line number 8. After get input is evaluated, after get input value gets evaluated, that is whatever would be the return value from get input that we achieve, that Python has that value, then that value will be stored in N1. And then again, same thing will be executed for line number 9. Again, it will go to get input. It will get the input from the user, return it, and here come back to this line number 9 and save that input into N2. Same again, it will go to line number 10. Then again here get input is there, so it will go inside get input function. Get the input from the user, return it, come back to line number 10 and store it on N3. Then it will add all the 3 values and print the output. Okay, this is basically for using an inner function. In this case, we are using an inner function. Okay. Clear, everyone? Still here?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear for everyone, right? No one wants me to repeat this concept again. Okay. Okay, fine. So this is cool. So this was a nested function. So now I'll tell you how to return a function from a function. Okay, so if I, so basically in the PPT we saw, right, that we can either return a list, a tuple, a dictionary, or we can return other functions as well. So let's just go ahead. Okay, so in this case, like this does not have any meaning as such right now. Whatever I'm writing, I just want you to make your concept clear. I want you to understand that this is something that you can do with functions. So it might not have any like utility purpose. Okay, yeah. So I have a function called create adder. Okay, and then I have a inner function called adder inside of it. Okay, which takes a value y, right? Which takes a value y here. Okay. So now inside y, I am just going to add x plus y and return it. So I'm going to return x plus y. Okay. This x here, it is accessible inside of adder function because in this case, x would be like an like basically kind of global to this, right? So I mean. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so here in this case, as we said, like x, when Python finds there is x variable, Python will try to find out if there is any x variable in the current scope, which means in the current function, which is adder function. Now, since there is no x variable in the current scope, it will go and check one scope ahead of it. That is, it will go and check create adder function. Okay, in create adder, okay.
Function.
Sorry. Repeat again. Can you repeat again?
Is this nested function?
Yeah, it is a nested function. We have a create adder function, which is my outer function, main function, and then we have a adder function, which is a nested function inside create adder function. Okay, and this returns x plus y. So this nested function returns x plus y, right? So here what I'm trying to say is when a Python encounters x, right, over here, x, so it will first try to find if x variable is present in my current scope, which means if that is present in the adder function. Since there is no x variable in the current scope or in the adder function, Python will go and check the next enclosing scope, which means create adder function, right? So this x plus y line is a part of adder function. Adder function is a part of create adder function, and create adder is a part of the whole file and the whole Python file, right? So when Python encounters a variable x, it will first try to check if x is a part of the current scope or the current function, which is the adder function. Now, since x is not present anywhere in the adder function, it will try to check the next enclosing scope, which means it will try to check the create adder function. In create adder function, we do have an x here, so that would be accessible inside. So you like if I define a number inside my adder function, right? You cannot access it in create adder function. But if I have a num in create adder function, I can access it inside my adder function, right? Okay.
Ma'am, but why?
Because see, like it kind of acts as a global only, right? Like see, if I have some num is equal to 10 here, right? This is kind of global, okay? Because why can my create adder function in this? I'll just remove this for simplicity. I'll add it later on. Okay. So in this case, I'm able to access this. Why? Because like this num variable is part of the whole file, and my function is also part of the whole file, right? So I have a numerical and a function, both are a part of the whole file. So I can access this num variable inside of the file, right? Similarly, now if I have a function inside a function, if I have this adder, okay, something like this, and I have defined a num2 inside my create adder. So this num2 should be accessible anywhere inside of this function, right? In anywhere inside of this function, right? Num2 should be accessible anywhere inside create adder function. And since adder function is a part of create adder function, num2 should be accessible inside of adder as well, right? Clear? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when I define a function, right, when I define a variable inside one scope, that variable can be accessible anywhere inside of that scope. Okay. So in this case, if I am declaring a function create adder has a scope of its own. Like these three lines are the scope. So even if I have a nested function, that nested function is also a part of the outside function only, right? So whatever is defined in the outside function, whatever variables are defined in the outside function will be accessible inside my inner functions, right? It's basically, I don't know if I have any, maybe I'll just go to docs and check. Okay, I don't know how can we make shapes here. I was just trying to show you all like in terms of boxes what I was trying to mean. Okay, maybe next time I'll just like get a picture or something to make it better, clear. Okay, so yeah, where were we? We were at the, yeah, we were trying to create a nested function, right? Okay, so I have a create adder function which has a variable passed to it, which has a parameter x passed to it. So this x will be accessible anywhere inside of this function, right? If I print x, this should be accessible because x, when you are passing it to a function, that becomes like a local variable to the function, and then you can access that x anywhere inside of that function. So similarly, if I write one more function, adder, okay, and suppose just for now, let's just keep it like this. Okay, now I have another function adder. Now since this x can be used anywhere inside of create adder function, and adder function is a part of create adder function, right? Adder function is a part of create adder function. So that's why all the variables that are defined inside create adder function can be accessed inside of adder function. There will be no problem to this, right? So this is what I was trying to say. Now, if I have some other variable passed to this nested function, and I want to return the addition of my x plus y. Okay, this is what the nested function does. Whatever is the value passed to the nested function, that plus whatever is the value passed to the main function, that will get added and be returned. So this is just like one use case of returning function. Okay, now in this case, instead of returning a value, I'll just return adder. Okay, so I have created a nested function and I'm returning that nested function from this main function. Okay, so now when I call this function, so suppose if I want to add add 15. Okay, add 15 is equal to create adder 15. Okay. Now, which I'm calling create adder with a value of 15. So this x will be 15 in this case, right? Create adder will get called, x will be 15. But whatever is the return type, whatever is the value that is getting returned from this function will be saved inside add 15, right? Right? Whatever is the value that is passed from, that is returned from my create adder function will be saved inside add 15. So in this case, I am passing a function, right? My return type is a function. I am returning a function. So a function will be returned into add 15. Okay, a function will be returned into add 15, right? So this adder function, now this internal function, right? This is returned and saved into add 15, right? So now add 15 is a function of its own, right? Add 15 will now become a function, and if I want to call this add 15 function, I have to pass in y variable to it, because whatever was here, whatever the function has been defined internally, this function is the one that is being returned, right, by my create adder function. So in this case, now adder, I had defined inner function as adder that requires the parameter y, and I'm returning that from the my main function. When I'm returning that, the function adder gets stored in add 15. So if I want to use this function now, if I want to use this add 15 function, so I have to pass it some value, right? So I'll just print add 15 and I have to pass a value 10, for example. So here in this case, when create adder got called, okay, create adder got called, right, with a value of 15. So internally it created this function adder y. Okay, so internally the function that gets created, that would be equivalent to this adder y, okay, return 15 plus y. This would be the internal state of the function. This would be what would be there, what would be the function that gets created internally, because you're passing x to be 15. So internally, this a function equivalent to this will get created, and that would be returned. So when that value, when that function is getting returned, right, when this adder is getting returned, and you are storing this adder into some other variable, that variable will become a function. That variable will act like a function because you are saving a function into that variable, right? So you can use that variable as a function, but as a function, like as this adder function that I have highlighted. So in order to in order to call this function, we have to pass a argument, right? Because there is one parameter required in this case. So I have to pass an argument, and that's why I'm passing 10 as an argument here, right? So when I call this function, 25 would be returned. clear, everyone, about returning functions? Want me to repeat it once more? Want me to repeat it once more, or is it clear? Not clear yet? If you want me to repeat, just say like that you did not understand maybe, and I can repeat it. Okay. Okay, I'll just repeat it anyway once more. So usually we have a function which returns a value, right? So let's just not care about all of that. I'll just simply create one function without any parameters in this case. Okay, and or yeah, just without any parameters. And then I have a nested function inside of this create adder function. So I have create def adder, and now I have to input two values to it. My def adder function has two this parameters to be passed to it. So what it does, it will return the addition of these two values. It will return x plus y. This is what my adder function does, right? This is what adder function is doing. You pass it two values and it will return the addition result of those two values. Now, now in this main function, I'm not going to return one value. I'm going to return the inner function itself. I'm returning the inner function itself, right? So when I'm saving it into something, I'll save it in some add func. Maybe this is what I'll name it, right? So in add func, when I'm calling create adder, right? I'm just calling create adder in this case. So in this case, when create adder gets called, this control will go inside create adder function. This new inner function will get created, adder function will get created, and that adder function will be returned. So now adder is being returned, and that is being stored into add func. Okay. Now, if you want to use this inner function, like this inner function that that was created and that was returned, right, and that was now being saved in the add func. So now add func will work similar to adder, because here adder is being returned from the create adder function that we are storing into add func. So add func will act similar to adder function. So if I want to call add func, if I just want to call add func, I have to pass it two parameters, two arguments basically, because this adder function has two arguments. This adder function takes two arguments and adds those two arguments. So similarly, when I'm calling add func, because add func has the value of adder function, stores the value of adder function. Whenever I want to call add func, I have to pass it two arguments, because adder function requires two arguments, right? And now since this is going to return something, okay, adder function is going to return something. It is going to return me the addition value of x and y. In this case, I will store this, whatever is the output from add func, which is equivalent to the output from adder function, into ans variable, right? So now if I print ans, it will give me the proper answer. Okay, it will give me, it will process the input, whatever this input you have given, it will process it in a similar way that adder was processing. Adder was adding the two inputs, right? And now adder is being saved inside add func, because my function create adder is returning adder function, and this after returning it, that is being stored into add func, right? So now when I'm calling add func, I'm going to pass it two arguments, right? And internally it will behave just as adder behaved, just as adder was defined. So internally it will add the two numbers and it will return me the output, and that is what I am printing here. Is this clear? Is this clear for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let's just check the PPT, see what is remaining now. So we are done with inner functions. We are done with how are we supposed to return a function from a main function, like return a function from inside a function. Okay, then we have seen none type. What is none in Python? I think anonymous functions and main functions we will take it next time because it's already, I guess, it's become a little heavy for everyone, like this returning from functions and all. So we'll take anonymous functions and main function next time. So what we'll do right now is we'll go and check the last time's question statement, right? Like yesterday we just did the first two questions, so maybe we can go and check the some two, three other questions, two, three next questions. But whatever we have seen today, that's fine, right, for everyone? Like you have understood whatever we have gone through today. It's mostly today it will what all parameters to be passed to the Python function and how what all values can be returned from inside of the Python function, right? And then we saw like nested functions. Okay, so yeah, this is cool. So I think the first two we did yesterday already. Yeah, so I'll directly go to the third question. And okay, the third question is write a Python program that prints all the numbers from 0 to 6 except 3 and 6. Okay, so what is the loop that we will be using in this case?
While loop.
While loop or for loop? We have the numbers. We know how many times the loop has to be run. We know that the loop has to be run
Then for
only
loop.
from 0 to 6. Yeah, yeah, right. We know, right? Just a second. Yeah. We know how many times the loop has to be run, right? Because now we have to print all numbers from 0 to 6 with some condition. We do have some condition that we have to check. But we have to run, we know that we have to run the loop from 0 to 6 because we know we have to print numbers from 0 to 6. And we have to not print a number if that number is 3 or 6, right? If the number is 3 or 6, then no need of printing that number, right? So let's just go and check. Okay, so there are multiple ways of doing this. Like one would be directly if you say for I in range 7, 7 because 6 plus 1, right? We have to print numbers from 0 to 6. So if there was no condition specified, if I just have to print numbers from 0 to 6, then I would have said for I in range 7, print I. So it would have printed 0 to 6. It prints 0 to 6, right? This is without any condition, when we don't have any condition while printing the numbers. But my condition is, like if the number is 3 or 6, then I don't have to print the number. So one way you can do this is you can just say if I is equal to 3, if it's 3. Now in this case, I have to check if the number is either 3 or 6, right? A number cannot be 3 and 6 simultaneously. You have to check if a number is 3 or if the number is 6, then you don't print the number. So in this case, I'll use or instead of and, right? In the first example, first question that we saw yesterday, we were using and, right, not or. So in this case, we are using or because that is the condition. My condition is that if the number, if while looping through the number from 0 to 6, if that number is either 3 or that number is 6, then you don't print that number. So I can just say or 6. Yeah, this is one way. I can say it's not equal to. Okay. So, so what was the condition? If it is 3 or 6, then I don't have to print it, right? I don't have to print the number. Okay, so which means I have to go to the next iteration. I have to skip this iteration, right? I don't have to print the number. I don't have to do anything. So I have to skip this iteration. So what was the statement we used in order to skip any iteration from a loop? What is that one statement, right? We used if we want to skip this particular iteration and go to the next one without executing the code from this iteration. Anyone? If I have a loop and if at certain point with a certain condition, if I want to skip that iteration, like if I want to like go to the starting point of the loop again and not execute anything that is present in the loop henceforth. So what is the statement that I need to use in that case? Anyone? We need to use continue, right? When we say continue, the control will go back to the start of the loop, and whatever is present in the loop will not get printed, like beyond the continue point will not get printed. So here I want to print I in all the cases except for when I is 3 or 6, right? So what I have done is, if I is 3 or if I is 6, right? If the number is either 3 or if the number is 6, then you just continue the loop. That is, you from this point, after checking the condition, after hitting on continue, the control will go back to the start of the loop. The control will go back to the start of the for loop here, and this print statement will get skipped for I is equal to 3 and I is equal to 6 for both of these, right? So if I check the output, yeah, see, 3 and 6 are not displayed here. That is because whenever a number is either 3 or 6, this condition will become true and then continue will be called, right? Continue, after calling continue, the control will go back to the start of the loop, and then again the next iteration will run. So the control will not come to print I, and so this I will not get printed. This statement will not get printed. So this is one way of doing it, or you can do it using AND also. So if I have print 7. Now, if I'm checking, I want to print a number if it is not 3 and not 6, right? So in the earlier one, what we were checking, I want to print a number. I don't want to print a number if it is 3 or it is 6. That is the same condition basically. It's a different way of seeing the condition. So one way is to look at it is, you say if I is 3 or I is 6, then don't print it. Or a second way of saying this would be, if I is not 3 and I is not 6, then you print the number. It would mean the same, right? Right? If I is not 3 and I is not 6, right? If I is not 3 and I is not 6, which means I is either 0, 1, 2, 4 or 5, right? So if I is neither 3 or not 6, then in that case you print I. So here I am saying if I is not equal to 3. Now in this case, instead of or, I will say and I is not equal to 6, then print I. In this case, there's no need of using continue, because if the value of I is not 3 and not 6, then I will get printed. In all other cases, nothing will happen, right? Nothing needs to happen in this case. So here again, if you see, there's 0, 1, 2, 5. I'll just comment out this section and print it. So here you have 0, 1, 2, 4 and 5. Same thing. So both of these two code did the same thing, but the logic was a bit different in both the cases. That's it. Okay. Clear, everyone? Clear on this, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's
Yes,
go to the
ma'am.
next question. Okay, cool. Yeah. Let's go to the next question. That is question number 4. Okay, accept number from user and calculate the sum of all numbers between 1 and a given number. Right? First, let me just explain the question. It's a simple question only. So if I have to take one number from the user. So if I say, suppose user gives me 5 as the value, right? If user is giving me 5 as the input, then I have to find the sum of all numbers between 1 and 5 inclusive. That means I have to find 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Similarly, if the user gives me 10, then I have to find the sum of all numbers between 1 and 10. That means I have to find 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, like this, till 10. Okay, so what loop should we use in this case? What loop should we use in this case? We know how many times it is supposed to be run, right? There is only one number. Whatever number the user will input, only that many number of times this loop should run, right? Starting from 1.
While loop.
Again, while or for loop, we have a number. Like one.
Condition.
Yeah, sorry, go
What
on.
is the condition of this?
Yeah, so that's what you have to use a while loop when you have a condition. In this case, you don't have a condition. You know that you are supposed to add the numbers from starting from 1 to the number that the user gives you, right? So if the user gives you 5, then you have to run the loop only for 5 iterations. If your user gives you 10, then you have to run the loop for 10 iterations and add the current value of each iteration. Similarly, if the user gives you n as the value, some value n, then you have to run the loop 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 till n. So you have one specific number and you have to keep on running the loop till that number, right? So in this case, there is no condition. Like there is a definite. You know definitively that this loop will run for n number of times. N being the input that the user is giving you, right? So in this case also you will use a for loop. You won't use a while loop. You have a condition associated only when there is a while loop. Okay, when you don't have a condition, but when you know how many iterations are supposed to be done, what is the exact number of iterations, in that case you will use a for loop. So here let's say n. N is the input taken from the user. Right? You take an input from the user. And now you have to run your loop from 1 till this number n. Right? So I'll say for I in range. What should be the range?
10.
Here in
10.
this case, n is the value that has the user's input. You don't know if it is 10 or 5 or 7. But whatever that value is, that is stored in n, right?
For I in range n.
Okay. N or n plus 1, the loop will run from 0 till whatever is the range minus 1, right? If you say range 10, then in this case the loop will run from 0 to 9, right? But I want numbers from 1 to n, 1 to 10 in this case.
And
So in
n
that,
plus 1.
yeah, from n plus 1, but I have to specify a starting input as well, because I don't want 0, I want to start from 1. So I'll say 1 comma n plus 1. Right? I have a starting number 1, and then n plus 1 is how many numbers I want to go till. Like I want to go till n plus 1. So here in this case, the last number printed would be n. Now I want to add it all. I want a sum of it all. Right? So I'll say sum is equal to 0. Right? And for each iteration, I'll add the I to that sum. Okay, sum is equal to sum plus 0. Sum plus I, sorry. Right? So for every iteration, I will get printed, and that I will be added to my original sum. So initially I have 0 value. In the first iteration of the loop, I would be 1. So 1 will get printed and 1 will be added to the sum. Now sum becomes 1. In the second iteration, I would be 2. 2 would be printed and 2 would be added to the current sum, which means 1 plus 2. Right? In the third iteration, I'll just write it here. In the first iteration, when I is equal to 1, I will be 1, right? Because we are starting the range from 1. In this case, sum would be 0 plus 1. 0 plus 1, right? Which would be 1 ultimately. So I'll just write it as 1. Then in I is equal to 2, sum would be the current sum, which is 1 plus whatever is the number value of I. So in this case, it would be 2, right? Similarly, when I is 3, sum would be the current value of sum, which is 1 plus 2, which is 3, but I'm writing it as 1 plus 2. And now 3 will get added to it because I is 3. So similarly, this will keep going on till n, right? So if n is equal to 5, so I will, my last, iteration, in my last iteration, I would be 5, and sum would be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus current I. So this is what I wanted, right? This is what I wanted to do. This was supposed to be my output. So this is what my output is at the moment. Clear? If I run this and then if I print sum, should print me the value. So if I say 5 now, so yeah, so here if you see 1, this is the number of iterations. So in my iteration, I was 1, I was 2, I was 3, 4 and 5. And the total, that is the sum of all these numbers. So if you see 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, that sums up to 15. Right? 5 plus 4, 9 plus 3, 12 plus 2, 14 plus 1, 15. So that sums up to 15. Clear, everyone? This problem? Okay, any question in today's session? I think it's almost time. So maybe the next ones, these all things you try this week. That's why I have not given any homework because like I don't think your homeworks also many of you have even tried. So I think just go and like see all those homeworks and try it and come back with some questions. Right, so I'm not giving any homework in this week. Probably after the functions topic gets done, then we will take some questions in the class itself to have a better understanding. But like till then, like at least try to solve all the questions that were given to you previously. Okay, any
Yes,
other
ma'am.
question? Yeah, cool. Yeah, any other questions in today's session?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Anyone else? Any questions? If not, then I think we can close the call for today.
Yeah, okay. So no questions, anyone, right? So everyone is fine. Here we go. Okay, then. Thank you, Priya. So thank
Yeah,
you, everyone. We
thanks.
can
Yeah,
stop the class then.
thanks, guys. Yeah, bye.
Bye.